So let us discuss the drawbacks of our previous approach. So we have curated all the required commands in deploy.sh file, pushed that file along with the changes of the application to GitHub, pulled that repo from gcloud console, and executed the deploy.sh file from there. But though this appears to be an automated method, this is not suggestible in dynamic real-world scenarios because each time we make changes to our code locally and push it to GitHub, we need to pull that GitHub repo from GCP console and execute the GCP file and execute the deploy.sh file. This is still manual, right? So let us switch to the automatic deployment method, using which the changes made to GitHub will be automatically detected by Travis, and it will take care of testing and deploying automatically to K8's cluster whenever changes are made to GitHub. In other words, we want Travis to access our GitHub repo where changes to apps are pushed, then access our Kubernetes cluster and deploy the new version of the app on Kubernetes cluster. So these are the steps involved in the previous method, if you remember. So after making the changes to our application, we go to our project in GCP, connect to GC Cloud, Google Cloud Console, configure the console to access the Kubernetes cluster and connect to kubectl, configure console with your Docker Hub credentials, pull the recently changed GitHub repo of our application, and run the deploy.sh file, which internally gets the SHA of the latest commit, builds the Docker image of the app based on Docker file, pushes the image, applies the config files, and then update the image of the container in the deployment resource. Now, we are going to do the following. Since we want to automate the deployment process, we will automate all the aforementioned steps by writing those steps in the travis.yaml file and authorizing Travis to access our Docker Hub and Google Kubernetes Engine. So now the steps involved in automatic deployment through Travis are: enable Travis to access our GitHub repository, get service account credentials from GCP, install Travis CI in our machine, say our Ubuntu remote machine, and then connect to Travis remote, encrypt the service account credentials and send it to Travis remote so that Travis will be able to connect to GKE with this service credentials given by GCP, and then write the Travis YAML file. And based on the instructions written in Travis YAML file, Travis tries to deploy the application onto GKE. So let us proceed to following these steps. First one is to enable Travis to access our GitHub repository. Let us enable Travis to monitor our GitHub repo so that Travis could deploy any new change pushed to repo automatically. So go to travisci.com, click on plus here, sync account, and go to manage repositories. Give the GitHub credentials. Then only select repositories. Select repositories. Deploy to K8s. So this is our current GitHub repo which we are using right now, right? Approve and install. Okay. Now click on this. Now go to more options, settings, go to the environment variables section. So now we want to give our Docker Hub credentials to Travis so that it will be able to build images and push those images to Docker Hub automatically. So don't worry, we will do all these steps one by one. So for now, just give the Docker Hub credentials with Docker ID. For me, it is VK. Add. Similarly, we also need to give our password. So I'm pausing the screen. So I have given the Docker ID and the Docker password for the Docker Hub account of mine. Next, let us proceed to get the service account credentials from GCP. So here, IAM and admin service accounts. Okay, so create a service account, deploy to K8s. I'm just giving the name of this service account. This is to enable Travis to deploy static app to GKE. Create. Next, we have to select the role which this service account will be having. So let us give Kubernetes Engine admin. Continue. Next, done. Now, if you go down, so this is the key which I have created now, right? So what we have to do is click on this, manage keys. And then add a key, create new key, JSON create. So this has downloaded a key file for me, right? So what this does means, add a new key pair or upload a public key certificate from an existing key pair. So basically, the file which was downloaded right now, I will be using this service account file. Like I will be giving this encrypted form of this particular key to Travis so that it will be able to access my GCP so that the Travis will be able to deploy the app onto K8s automatically. So basically, in order for Travis to deploy some app onto my K8s, it should have some authentication, right? So that is the key which I have generated right now. So when I have generated this key is having all the authentic permissions in order to be a Kubernetes engine admin. So I'm going to give this key to the Travis file so that so that it will be able to access my K8s cluster and deploy my app automatically. All right. So the next step is to install Travis CI. So if you remember, we have connected to a new Ubuntu instance on AWS. So we will be installing our Travis CI in that and do all the other things from that itself. So now that we have downloaded the service account file also, we need to make that available in the Ubuntu machine. So it is in my downloads only. So first of all, I want to upload that file and make it available in the Ubuntu machine because we are going to do all the further process from the Ubuntu machine itself. So we will just copy the file which is located in my current Windows machine into a remote Ubuntu machine using scp command. Okay, so the command goes like this: scp -i, then the Ubuntu file, the Ubuntu private key which we have downloaded previously, right? The TEM file. So I'm going to use that my AWS Ubuntu key.pem because I want to access that machine, right? So that is why I'm using this. And then the file I want to copy is this one. So this is the IP address, right? So whenever we want to copy any file, we can just use the IP address of the machine. But when we want to access that machine itself in order to make some manipulations inside that Ubuntu, then we can use this. But now we just want to copy that. So just copy this IP and go to console again. Paste the IP here and then a colon, which indicates I want to copy this file in the home directory of this machine. Okay, hit enter. So it shows that it is copied, right? So now let us connect to our remote instance, which is using the SSH minus hyphen I command, which we have used previously to connect that, right? So just SSH minus I, sorry, hyphen I, my AWS that key, and then go back to AWS console and now copy this one because we are going to enter into that, right? So now copy that and in the command line Ubuntu at this. Okay. Now let us ls. So we can see the file which we have uploaded appears here, right? Now the next step is to install the Travis CLI in our Ubuntu machine. For that, first we need Ruby, because Travis is built upon that. Okay, so the command to install Ruby, sudo apt install ruby-dev. Okay, so it's done. So let us check the Ruby version -v. Okay, now the next step is to install Travis. So this is the command. Okay, so now let us check the Travis version 2. All right, so these are installed. Then the next step is to log into Travis. Okay, so the command to log in is, so if you remember, we have logged into or signed up into Travis only using the GitHub credentials, right? So very similarly here in the CLI2, we shall use the GitHub credentials in order to log into the Travis CLI. Okay, so Travis login. So here I'm going to use the GitHub token. Okay, so in order for me to give my credentials, like there are other methods like using the password and username, but now I would prefer to give the GitHub token name. So -- GitHub token, and how to get to know about our token. So let us see that. So just go to github.com/settings/tokens. So here we would find this page. So you can generate a new token. I have already one token where it is here. So I can also regenerate the token, but mind that whenever you generate a token, it will be displayed only once over here. So make sure that you are noting down that very carefully. So if I generate a new token, so it is just like a sample token. Generate token. So it appears something like this. Okay. So make sure that you have noted this down somewhere very safely, because if you lose this, we again have to generate it and update all the files where we are using this. Okay. So I'm just deleting it. So I already have this one. So I will just use that. Okay. So I'm just pasting my GitHub token. Okay, some spelling mistake. Okay, let me clear my screen so that it will be more visible for you. CLS. Okay, clear. Now, Travis login. So also mind that we will have to add hyphen flag. Okay, so that we don't need to get into some other issues in the future. So basically, Travis is like available on .org platform right now, but it is going to be migrated to .com. So based on that, we have some issues in this process of migration. So right now, if we just use hyphen pro flag, it will be we will not have to face any issues in the future. Okay, then hyphen GitHub token and my token. Okay, so it shows successfully logged in, right? So then so it's time to discuss about the Travis file, which will be very helpful for the Travis to know about how to deploy, right? So I have already written the Travis file so that it will be easier for you to understand when it is already written one by one in the step. So I'm opening that. So note that my Travis file is inside the project folder. Okay. So yes, so I'm going to explain every line. So please make sure you're uh, clear with these things. So the first thing is language. So if you remember, even in the previous videos, when we have to use the Travis files, the language is must and should. So here we are just we just want the Travis to take care of Docker credentials and make the G-Cloud SDK ready, and then run the deploy.sh file inside this Travis file. Right, so those are the kind of instructions which we have written over here. So if we recap, basically why are we using this Travis and all? Because in the previous method where we have written all the commands like docker push, docker build, docker push, and apply k8s configurations and all, we have written all those commands in the deploy.sh, right? But still it is a manual way because we still have to connect to our cluster with the Google Cloud console, and then we have to get the credentials of the cluster, log in with the Docker credentials in that, and then activate our console to access that cluster with the lab and all, right? So still we have to apply that /deploy.sh command. We have to still do all those things manually every time. But if we want our application to dynamically be hosted on K8s, we have to take the help of some third party like Travis. So that is exactly the place where Travis is coming into play. So whenever there is any change to GitHub repository, basically in our application, that change will be detected by Travis. And after it detected, we want to tell Travis what are all the steps it need to implement in order for it to deploy our application onto K8s. So we will write all those commands in this Travis file so that based on our instructions, the deployment happens. Okay. So so basically we are not using any particular language. That is why we are writing generic language. Okay. And the second is sudo is required, and the services we are using is Docker, and then the environment variables. Okay, so as discussed previously, we want to use this environment variable git sha is equal to ribbar so that we can use this as the tag for our new image, for our changed, updated application, right? And then this Cloud SDK core disable prompts is equal to 1, so that we won't get any intermediate prompts and all. And then in the before install section, we are writing these commands. So the first two belong to installing the Google Cloud Console SDK. Why means only if we have the Google Cloud Console SDK with us, then we can execute all the other commands also, right? So basically what is happening when we go to GCP platform, there is a Cloud Console option, and upon we clicking on that, we are running a command, something similar to this, if you remember. Gcloud container clusters get credentials, the cluster name, zone name, project ID and all, right? So we are able to run this only because that is the Google Cloud Shell. But like that is already given by default to us by GCP. But here we are doing from scratch. So we want to install the Google Cloud Console SDK, and then we want to update the kubectl. And then using this command, we are authenticating Travis to access our GCP. And then we are connecting to our cluster, which is in this zone and in this project. Okay. And then we are just getting the password. So if you remember, we have set these environment variables already in the Travis environment variables section, right? So the Docker ID and Docker password. So we are just printing the Docker password, and we are logging in with the Docker ID and the password, which is in the standard input. Since we have already printed it over here, so we are just using, so we are also using the pipe, right? So we are taking this value to be the password value for this when we are logging into Docker. Okay. So basically, if you observe very clearly, these are nothing but the sequential steps we will be using in G-Cloud console, which we get by default upon logging on to GCP, right? But here, since we want everything to be done by Travis automatically, we are just writing all the steps here so that it will be authenticated to use GCP and use that cluster and get the credentials. And after it gets this credentials and this environment variable and all the other things set up like kubectl and all, it can further provide to run this deploy.sh, right? So it is just like this file is calling, like this file is setting up the environment, the overall environment in this section, and then it is calling this file. So in this file, if you remember, we have written the all these things like build the image, push the image, configure all the Kubernetes resources, and update the deployment image and all. So we are internally calling that file, right? So I hope you are clear till now. Okay. So once again, this is the language which is generic, because we are not using any particular language. Then we are telling that we want sudo, and then the services are Docker because we are using Docker, and we are setting the environment variables. And then in the before install section, we are kind of making all the environment ready, like all the setup ready, so that this file will be seamlessly be executing, right? So what are all the setup we need? We want G-Cloud SDK, and we want to update the kubectl component, and we want to authenticate Travis to access our GCP, and then we want to connect to our cluster, which is in this zone and in this project. And then we are also getting like logging into Docker. Why we are logging into Docker? Because in the next deploy section, we want to build the image of the updated application and push it to Docker Hub. So we are just logging into Docker, and then in the next step, we will just build and push the images. All right. So save this. So now we should encrypt the service account file which we have with us, right? So if you remember, this is the service account file, right? So we can't just let it go into the GitHub or directly into the Travis. because of the security reasons, because this is the key and anyone who has this can access our essential resources on the cloud, right? So that is not a safe method. So we need to encrypt this file and then add another command inside this Travis such that when this Travis file is executed in finally, it will be able to set up the environment variables like what are all the necessary credentials which are required by Travis in order to access GCP. All right. So we have to encrypt this file and send that information to Travis somewhere. So for that, we already have this command, Travis encrypt file, and the file name. And also we have to put this --com as we have discussed previously. And the file name, which is the lab.json, and then -r, which is the repository name on our Travis. So if we quickly go to our Travis, this is the name, right? So I'm going to use the same name. Okay, /deploy to K8. So make sure that you have synced this GitHub repository into Travis before doing this. Okay, and then --add. So I will tell you what this means. So for now, just execute it. So you can see encrypting this for this, right? So it is encrypting this service account file for this repository, and it is storing the result in this encrypted file .enc, right? No travis.yml found. Okay. So we have to execute this inside the repository where this .travis file is present. Okay, so let us traverse to that. Now, so make sure that this file is also present inside this repository. Yes. So if you remember, we have added this -- flag here, right? So the reason is we are encrypting this file. Okay, then this is the way to decrypt that file. This command will be useful to decrypt that file, and this command will be given to us by executing this command itself. So if we just add this flag, that will be directly added to our Travis file. Okay, so that is the reason we are doing that. Okay, so just press Y after that. So one more important thing. So when I do cd and ls, this file is present in the home directory, right? So if you want to move this into this folder, then just do mv the lab. So this file, basically this file name should be inside this. So that file, that folder name, deploy to K8s /dot. So if you execute this, this file will be moved to that. Okay, so now I'm going back to deploy to K8s file. Is clearing this screen, and now let us go back to, let us see the content of the Travis file. So yeah, so if you observe, this line is not written by us, but it is appended directly by executing the Travis encrypt file with --add command flag, right? So this is our overall Travis file. So now let us also make a small change to our HTML files, one of the HTML files, and then push all this code, including this Travis file, to GitHub. This causes to an updated GitHub repository, right? Because when we are changing something in our application and pushing that onto GitHub, so that change will be detected by Travis, and it will try to deploy that new change directly onto Kubernetes based on the credentials and other information we have given to it in the Travis file, right? So in order for us to correctly understand if things are in place, like if the changes are correctly updated and deployed on the GCP Kubernetes, we will have to do some change so that it will be notable by us, right? So let us go to HTML ls. So let us go to days app this now, days.html this now. Nano days.html. So now if we see here, it shows active Saturday and Sunday to be active, right? So I'm removing this active, and I'm making Saturday as bold because Saturday is a weekend, right? So we all love it. So I'm just bolding this Saturday, and I have removed the active component of these two, Saturday and Sunday. So when it was active, the Saturday and Sunday used to be appearing in blue color, right? So now in our updated application, which is deployed by Kubernetes, which is deployed into Kubernetes by Travis, there should not be any blue color highlighted with any weekdays, but the Saturday should only be bold. Okay, so let us check if this change will be successfully deployed by Travis. Okay, so change, save this, Control X and Y, and so let us now check the Git status. So it shows travis.yaml, HTML days HTML, and then this file, right? So a very important caution, make sure that this service account JSON file is not added into GitHub repository. If this is happening, you are compromising your security credentials onto a public repository, which can be accessed by anyone. So never ever allow this to be going into any public place like GitHub and all. So you should not commit this. So what we shall do is git add Travis. So we will add the files one by one, and just go to HTML and git add and come back cd dot dot, and then git the lab dot enc. So very careful. Okay. Okay, so git add. Okay, so now again check the status. So these three are added, and we don't want to add this, right? Now git commit -n added Travis file, encrypted file, and changed days.html file. Okay, now git push origin main, give the credentials. So it seems to be done. Now go back to GitHub. So refresh this page. So it shows 1 minute ago, right? So now let us go to Travis. So this is happening right now, right? So this is the commit description which we have written right now. So we hope everything happens correctly. So if you observe here, it is installing all the Cloud SDK components, right? As just like we have mentioned. Okay. because we can run the gcloud commands only if we have gcloud SDK. That is the reason we are doing all these things. So it is also installing kubectl, right? So now it is building the image of our application. So that means it is executing the deploy.sh file, right? So the Travis file is executing the deploy section in the file, in which we have written bash deploy.sh. So it is executing the commands which are written in deploy.sh file. So this might take some time. So it says successfully built, successfully tagged, and it pushed, and these resources are also configured, and the deployment resource, the image in the deployment resource is also updated, right? Now observe that in more options and settings of this repository, if you go to environment variables, it shows encrypted IV and encrypted key. So these are generated based on our service account file, which we have encrypted and given to that. So it will further process and make sure that it has those values, so that with the help of these values, Travis will be able to access the GCP. Okay, right? So it exited with 0, that means no issues. So it is now the time for us to go to GKE and check if the deployment has correctly happened and the changes we made have been are reflecting in the app which is deployed by Travis in the GKE, right? So let us go to GCP. So go to Kubernetes Engine, Services and Ingress. So here go to Ingress section. So here copy this link, go to a new incognito mode. So the reason we are stressing on incognito mode is if we just open that in Chrome, it might cache that files which we have opened previously, and the changes may not be appearing to us, right? So paste this, click on this, and yes. So finally, we have enabled the Travis to access our GCP, and it has successfully deployed the updated application on GKE. All right. So congrats. This is the end of this project section. Now, finally, since our project is completed, the final but most important step is to delete our resources so that we will not be charged anything extra. So click on this, delete. Okay, so it will be deleting in the meanwhile. And also we will have to delete the service account credentials also. So go to service accounts here. And this is the thing, right? Delete. Okay, so I don't think we have used anything extra other than the Kubernetes engine and service account in GCP. And in the very similar way, we will also go to AWS. because we also need to delete this EC2 instance, right? Which you have accessed remotely. So terminate instance. So it will be terminating. It takes some time. Okay. So yeah, thank you.